You show me one rally around the world, the Jews were rallying violently, and then you show me one peaceful Muslim rally around the world, you won't find it. You give me one example that Muslims were marching for peace. Don't bother, you won't find it. Give you one example of Israel is marching for war. Don't bother, you won't find it.
Well, welcome into another very special edition of the Under God podcast. I'm Pastor Nate, and I'm joined by my friend Ronnie Simon. And Ronnie has been an exceptional tour guide across the land of Israel. We've been together 7 days, is that right? So they have been together a week, and I got to tell you, it's been a mind-blowing experience. There's so much that I wish I could convey. I've posted a lot on social media, some videos, supplemental content, some commentary and thoughts, and just some pictures of sites that we've seen. The truth is, there's no better way to experience the land than to come to the land. So next time we do a trip to Israel, you better sign up and come and join us. And if you are favored by Yahweh, you'll have Ronnie as your tour guide. Pastor Stephen's been here 5 or 6 times, and he's told me on this trip, you're the best one he's experienced so far. So we've heard, many great things about Ronnie. It took me about 10 minutes to realize that I was in the presence of genius greatness. He's been an incredible tour guide. And so one of the things that we wanted to talk about on the podcast, and we talked in the last episode about a lot of the history of this place, and we sort of took it all the way up to 1967 to the 6-Day War, and you were explaining the landscape of things. We want to dive right back in today and continue on with that story. If you would, Ronnie, just take us. I know this is going to be a lot and take all the time you need, but let's move from 1967 through some of the key moments in political history of this land up into the present day, and then we'll kind of have a separate conversation once we get there about everything that's going on right now. The floor is yours, my friend. Take it away.
We can do that. We can either focus and speak more about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or we can speak about the broader picture of the Israeli-Arab conflict, which are not identical, although similar. What I forgot to mention in the last conversation is that in 1964, the Arab League decided to convene a group of people that will be called something like the Palestinian Supreme Authority. It wasn't yet an official Palestinian leadership, but they created that in 1964 in East Jerusalem. In 1965, a young Egyptian student by the name of Yasser Arafat established a new cell of Israeli Arabs that took shelter in Egypt by the name of Fatah. When the Egyptian authorities realized that he is working on that level, he had to run for his life to Kuwait. He was born in Kuwait. In 1967, in fact, he took over the whole organization due to a kind of a struggle within the Palestinian movement. But after the 1967 war was over, Arafat and many of the other Palestinian, let's say more militants, fled to Jordan. And King Hussein of Jordan, that was severely defeated in the 6-Day War, was not strong enough to deal with their presence. They were supported by other Arab countries. The plan was that since the Arab armies were beaten, they would not dare to attack Israel again, but they're going to shelter the Palestinian militias. So they would do the battle in their behalf. And King Hussein of Jordan made also a fatal mistake because something was growing out of his nose. He did not realize how dangerous it's going to be to his own country.
Wow.
So these Palestinians became stronger and stronger. They started setting roadblocks in the capital of Jordan, Amman. They started collecting taxes, operating the refugee camps to such an extent that the king almost lost the kingdom.
Wow.
September of 1967, he launched a full-scale attack on the Palestinian refugee camps. They call it Black September ever since. About 8,000 Palestinians were butchered by the Jordanian army, and Arafat had to relocate. And the only place to go to that was on the borders of Israel was Lebanon. Lebanon is a country that had a Christian majority, where the state was founded by France, by the way. And because of changing demographics, the Christians lost their majority. And today, Lebanon has a minority of Arab Muslim Shiites. And since the demographics have changed and Christians were no longer the majority, it led to much instability within Lebanon. And what terror wants always is a sovereign country, which is protected by international law, with a weak central government so they can create a state within a state. And the local country is not strong enough to deal with that. That was the situation in Lebanon. So with the involvement of the president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, they promised the Lebanese that the PLO is going to be involved only in local matters that would not present a threat to the state of Lebanon. The Lebanese, in fact, their arm was twisted. They could not say no.
Right.
Thing has moved from Jordan now to Lebanon to create a state within a state. As long as they are closer to our borders, they are content. Weapons were never an issue. The whole Arab world was supplying them with weapons. And instead of firing from Jordan and risk an Israeli retaliation, they started operating from Lebanon, basically. Between 1970 to 1982, South Lebanon was a place called Fatah land, which means the land of the Palestinians. Lebanese army was not in control. They were too strong, the Palestinians, to be confronted by the Lebanese army. Basically, they did whatever was in their favor.
Wow.
Including rocketing Israel, Katyusha rockets, but also they built an infrastructure that was based on terror. And these were the days, I guess we can call it international terrorism. There was a strange cooperation between the IRA, remember the IRA, the Irish one?
Yeah.
There was the German Bader-Meinhof, the Red Japanese army. They had the Red Brigades from Italy, and all these groups basically targeted the West as an enemy. And when you speak about the West, Israel was there geographically, right on the line, to be the enemy, to take out all the frustration, all the operations. And we found in 1972, a plane landed at the airport in Tel Aviv. A Japanese man called Kozo Okamoto opened a briefcase with an AK-47 and sprayed the terminal with fire, killing dozens of Israelis, including some high-profile Israelis. Who would have thought that the Japanese would be cooperating with the PLO? That was before the days of security on airplanes. That was still naive back then.
How did that happen? How did that coalition come together?
Well, you know, these groups were not able to operate on Italian soil or German soil. We speak about Marxists and communists, and they find the Shiites and the Muslims and the Palestinians as natural allies because they had an enemy to fight. That was the West. So we always have the big Satan, which is America. Little Satan is Israel. And since the PLO was on our borders in Lebanon, they basically provided all the umbrella, if necessary, to carry out those attacks. Now, you can be operating in Italy, but you're always under the threat that the Italian police, the Italian whatever, security, the CIA will put a hand on you. In South Lebanon, the PLO controlled that. So this was a haven to everybody. So they would train in South Lebanon, the IRA and the Japanese. South Lebanon became to be a terror state.
Wow.
And that was the case until 1982. In 1974, the United Nations is inviting Yasser Arafat to come and address the General Assembly. And the man was recognized as a world terrorist by then, but the United Nations had a majority of Arab countries in it, and by simple majority, they can do basically 58 Muslim countries, plus their supporters, they can pass any law without any objection, including inviting a proclaimed official terrorist to address the General Assembly, which is absolutely insane.
That is insane.
Listen, in 1972, the PLO initiated an attack on the Israeli Olympic team in the Munich Olympics.
Right.
All right? This is a world-known event, right? So let me put it this way. For the Palestinians, they had a big dilemma after 1967. The world was praising Israel, a small country that won an amazing victory. The question was, how can we get the world's attention? We can do that by maybe have peaceful rallies. Most likely, nobody will care. The only way to get the world's attention was their mindset is to engage in terror. Only by using terror, the world will pay attention to a nation that wants to have a state called the Palestinians, because right now, the world was praising Israel. You can only get their attention by creating terror.
Wow.
And they did. And you know what? They were right. That's the sad thing. Terror wins, unfortunately, unless you stop it.
Yeah.
And the world doesn't stop terror. So the PLO is getting stronger, and they operate on different levels, but mostly violent ones, cooperating with international groups for a few years. And that was the case. In 1975, Arafat is invited to the United Nations, and he gives a speech. Not a speech of peace. He speaks about the utter destruction of the Jewish state. And the whole assembly is cheering. The man insisted to carry his handgun before he went inside. And they told him, listen, this is a house of peace. You cannot carry a handgun. And he said, well, I'm not going in there. They made a compromise. He was addressing the General Assembly with a pistol on his belt. Never happened before or after. A freedom fighter. a well-known terrorist. So the PLO is building up their power. They are more active now in terror. Some countries are supporting them, including this recognition in the United Nations that was absolutely an absurd. Things are getting worse because they become stronger in South Lebanon as well. Meanwhile, few things happen. In 1979, Israel makes peace with Egypt. Anwar Sadat, the president, after losing the war of 1973, he understood that there was no military option against Israel, and he wanted peace, and Israel is willing to pull out from Egyptian territory and give it back to the region for peace. Egypt is no longer leading the Arab world in the struggle against Israel. In 1988, the king of Jordan officially admitted that the West Bank that his grandfather Abdullah took from the Palestinians illegally doesn't want it anymore. He relinquishes any demand for the West Bank. So now we have two pieces of property that Egypt doesn't want, the Jordanians don't want, and Israel is willing to negotiate with the Palestinians over a future autonomy for the Palestinians. In the peace process with Egypt, President Sadat was asking Menachem Begin, our prime minister, Mr. Prime Minister, what can we do to help the Palestinians? And Menachem Begin, the most hardliner among Israeli prime ministers, said Israel is willing to consider an autonomy for the Palestinians. Now, this is amazing, because until then, in the Arab countries, nobody recognized the Palestinians as a nation, let alone land for a state.
Let me ask you a question. So the PLO and this coalition of terror is, it's having its heyday there in Lebanon at training and doing all of this. They're causing problems. Why would the other Arab nations that are surrounding Israel come to the UN and clap and support this guy when they know that his group is wreaking havoc, not only in Israel and not only coming after Israel, but every place that they are? I mean, what is that? Is it just the sheer hatred of Israel? Why is it, we won't give you place here, you can't have our place, but yet we'll support you in fighting Israel? Tell us a little more about what the thinking is, to the best you can figure out.
That's exactly it. You try to wave a flag of Hezbollah or Hamas in any Arab country, you won't survive for too long. You can wave the flag of Hamas in Paris and London and New York, or ISIS for that matter, and it's legit. You try to do that in Cairo or Damascus or Beirut or Oman, you'll be killed.
Really?
So these guys know something about the Palestinians that the West refuses to understand.
Yeah.
Every place the Palestinians went, they brought trouble with them. Civil wars in Jordan, in Lebanon, in Syria, everywhere they went.
Everywhere.
And there's a reason why no Arab country is willing to take Palestinian refugees today. Not even one, because they know what they're dealing with. Now, for the Arabs, to show solidarity is the most important thing. But if Egypt is going to attack Israel, they're risking Israel's retaliation on Egyptian soil. So Egypt can carry on the tension by using the PLO as a proxy until the times will be right, and Egypt will feel strong enough to attack Israel directly. But so far, why not work it through a proxy?
Yeah.
We can carry on the tension. We always have it in the back of our minds as an Arab people that Israel is the enemy.
Yeah.
We support the Palestinians. They are the heroes. We accomplish our goal without risking our property and our territory. That was always the case. So it's not that they like the Palestinians. Trust me, Pastor. Palestinian refugees, right? We speak about apartheid. People call Israel an apartheid state, where the only Arabs who are really free in the region are the Israeli Arabs. Apartheid, let me tell you about Lebanon. Palestinian refugees live in camps in Lebanon. They have zero rights. They're not citizens. They don't have documents. They cannot get higher education. They cannot live anywhere they want. That's apartheid. In Israel, you're part of the state. You live anywhere you want. You study. You can be a Supreme Court judge. You can be a member of the parliament. We had an Arab Supreme Court judge that sent a Jewish president to jail, prison. That's apartheid. All right. Well, I'm telling you, people just don't have a clue.
They don't have
Israeli Arabs are Israelis. Palestinians in Lebanon are treated like dogs. Same in Egypt. In Jordan is the only country that gave the citizenship is Jordan.
Wow. Now, just to recap, in case people are jumping into this episode, maybe didn't hear the last one, and maybe you can do this in a condensed format. When we say Palestinians, because there was no Palestinian state. That hasn't been a thing. Who are we specifically talking about? Who are the people that identify as Palestinians?
That's a good question. Today, it's more an issue of sentiment. It's more an issue of culture, of a political stand. It's not demographics. It's not kind of a biological ties that people have together. Basically, a Palestinian was somebody who lived in Palestine. Until 1947 or 48, everybody was Palestinian, including Jews who lived in Palestine. Ever since the State of Israel was born, Jews that live in Israel are Israelis.
And just to recap quickly, because again, we'll have people listening that missed the last episode. When they hear what you just said, they go, "Oh, so Palestine was there until Israel kicked them out." Remind everyone what Palestine was, because it wasn't a country. It wasn't an autonomous sovereign state. What was it?
Palestine was a province in the Ottoman Empire that was very scarcely populated until the last years of the 19th century. And when Jewish pioneers came to the land, investing in it, improving in it, working on it, creating jobs, that was the sign for many Arabs from the whole Middle East to infiltrate into Palestine's territory to enjoy the prosperity that Jewish money created.
Yeah.
And these are the indigenous people of the land.
Okay.
These are the genuine Palestinians.
Got it.
People that don't really belong here.
Yeah.
They came as illegal workers. They had no rights, no documents, absolutely nothing. They simply stayed.
Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit. I'm born in 1979. So everything we've been talking about up to this point predates me.
Okay.
And so as we move into the 80s, I mean, I remember as a kid watching the news, seeing Yasser Arafat on the television, trying to understand what is this, who is this, what's going on. But he was a prominent figure. I mean, throughout the 80s and 90s, obviously, President Bush 1 tried to work with him. Bill Clinton tried to work with him. Tell us from your perspective how those talks went and what were some of the we got close, but then it fell apart moments all along the way.
Okay, well, once again, let me tell you the facts, and I challenge everybody, go and check. Don't just believe me because I cannot be trusted. I have an agenda. The facts are there. You go and you verify, okay?
What is your agenda, by the way?
Well,
for Jewish people to live in peace, right?
If possible, people need to know the truth. It's not going to change people's mind because once you're so anti-Israeli, even if you see the truth in your face, you won't change your mind because you have to admit that you were wrong for decades back. Think about state leaders.
Yeah.
What happens if you admit that you thought you do the right thing, but you were wrong for the last 30, 40 years? You lose your position. So people don't like to admit their mistakes, but sometimes you have to. So in 1988, Hussein said, I don't want the West Bank anymore. 4 years later, elections in Israel, 1992. Yitzhak Rabin wins the election, Labour Party. For the first time in about 30 years, it was the Conservative Party. And since we have two pieces of property that Egypt doesn't want, Jordan doesn't want. Since we have an issue with the Palestinians, there was an uprising called the First Intifada in 1987. I skipped the war in Lebanon, where we just thrown out Arafat and his companions to go to Tunisia. It's important, but this is not the main thing. Israel initiates a round of peace talks with the Palestinians. That's quite amazing. Arafat is in Tunisia. He's not in control. He lost all the influence. Israel sincerely seeks peace, and we try to find a partner. Who are we going to talk to on the Palestinian side? To see if we can bring them, because we promised the president of Egypt, and we really want to find a peaceful ending to the conflict. So who is going to be the leader? We try to encourage local Palestinians to try to call them leaders. The PLO is involved, and anybody who is daring to speak to Israel and dares to present himself as a legitimate leader is being murdered. All right, so we have nobody to talk to. Eventually, we make Arafat an offer. We are willing to recognize you as the head of the Palestinians. That's without them having elections. We gave him this position. We believe that you could represent the Palestinian people. Let's talk. So 1992 was a turning point. Israel initiates peace talk with the Palestinians, pointing at Arafat to be the legitimate leader of the Palestinians. Says who? He was never elected by the Palestinians. We made him a leader. Right?
But he postured himself as the leader. I mean,
well, yes,
you're recognizing what's the reality for them at that time.
He was never elected to be leader. There was strong opposition among the Palestinians who lived in the country because the leadership is in Tunisia. Just like today, Hamas leadership in Qatar. They live in 5-star hotels. They don't share the suffering of the poor Palestinians here in Palestine.
Right.
And how dare you come as outsiders and to take leadership? You're not really part of us.
Yeah.
We made the leadership a leadership, not the Palestinians. And that's part of the problem among the Palestinians. That was the reason why Hamas won the elections. because most Palestinians did not like the PLO as leaders. They were not the genuine choice.
Sure.
We made them leaders. So we start negotiations in the Norwegian capital, Oslo. Late 1992. It was secret at first, and then it surfaced and moved to Washington, obviously. And the 13th of September 1993, the two leaders, Rabin and Arafat, are shaking hands in the White House. President Clinton is all happy, taking full credit for the negotiation, although he was not behind that. And what we call the Declaration of Principles was signed. The declaration says the following: within 5 years, the two parties will find a final solution to the conflict. It's going to be land for peace. It's going to be an autonomy. How much land will be allocated is not mentioned. What Israel wants in return, that you, the Palestinians, are collecting the illegal weapons in your future territory. You stop the instigation in your media and schools. And if we have a misunderstanding, like civilized people, we'll sit down to the table, we'll talk, we'll find a solution. That was the plan. July 1st of 1994, the Palestinian autonomy was born. And Arafat is coming from Tunisia through Egypt into the Gaza area to take control over Gaza. I still remember the wave of optimism. Finally, common sense prevails. Finally, the people understand that living in peace by giving up some of your wishes and some of your aspirations, but for peace, it's a decent price to pay. Because in Israel, there is a conflict even today. What shall be the future of Judea and Samaria and the Gaza area? This is the heartland of biblical Israel. Many people are not willing to negotiate. Many people will be against the Palestinian state because after 2,000 years of exile, finally God brought us back to this country. And now to compromise the land, 50% will say, listen, we're not giving up the biblical promise. We're not giving up the ownership of the land, so to speak. But right now, to stop the killing, we're willing to make that concession. And that's the main issue within Israel. Right now, after 2 years of war with Hamas, it is shifting. Nobody speaks about peace anymore. And for many, many decades to come, peace is not an option. Okay, it just won't happen based on what we see the dynamic among the Palestinians. So in 1994, the PLO is officially declared leader. They create the Palestinian autonomy, and they have their government-like system. They have a parliament, etc. And they're controlling now part of Gaza City. They are controlling now some parts of the Gaza area. We pull out from Jericho, Israel, in May of 1994, give it over to the Palestinians. In January 95, we pull out from Bethlehem, and for all the Palestinian cities, give it to the Palestinians. What we're expecting from them is to keep the part of the deal. What happened, effectively, we got more terror.
Even as you say that, people, it's funny, when I talk with people about Israel, there's such a lack of understanding about the present day. When you say Jericho, first of all, that's how far from where we sit right now?
Yeah, well, Jericho is about 25 miles away.
It's about 25 miles from where we're sitting right in the heart of Jerusalem right now. So that's 25 miles away. Bethlehem, people are thinking, well, Bethlehem, that's the city of David, right? That's where Jesus was born. I mean,
5 miles away.
5 miles away, 5 miles away. And so you're hearing these biblically historic towns that we read about and study in the Bible. Jericho, Joshua, it's funny, when we were driving through, but Ronnie told us, we'll drive around the city once, not 7 times, because we all know what will happen. But you hear
the country is small.
Yeah. So, but you hear these names and you think, oh, well, that's got to be part of Israel. I mean, that's been a part of Israel since, time immemorial, but not the case.
I agree. No, exactly. But again, we still had this wave of optimism that maybe that can work. Now, the problem was that we got more terror than we got peace. And Arafat, I have to say, maybe from his side cleverly, decided to ignore totally some armed Palestinian militias. So he was the decent, modest politician that wore a suit and a tie and was talking peace in English, but never in Arabic. Not even once. The speeches in Arabic mention the term peace, not even once.
Really?
It's very important.
Fact check that.
It's very important to get the translation of every statement made in English or right in Arabic to English, and then you see the true nature of the messages, okay?
So you guys are here. You speak Hebrew and Arabic and a few other languages to me.
Well, no,
but you hear what he says in Arabic, you hear what he says in English, and you're going, this isn't the same thing.
We hear it in mosques every Friday. The message of the mosque on Friday will speak about the religion, but the message is political. You can hear it in loudspeakers broadcasted from Temple Mount and sometimes It's time for us Muslim brothers to cut the throat of all the Jews. Here in Israel, democracy, right? Freedom of speech, right? Freedom of religion.
And you guys let them do that.
Well, there is a limit, and we'll stop them. But once you dare to say something, do something, the whole world is in uproar. How dare you oppress these poor Arabs and poor Muslims, poor Palestinians? I know it's insane. That's the way it works. And we will not correct the world media, unfortunately. But people need to know the nature.
Okay. I'm trying to skip ahead, but let's go back. Stay in the mid-90s and continue this story. Yeah.
Okay, 94, the Palestinian autonomy is born. Israel is keeping its part of the agreement. We pull out from territory. We give it to the Palestinians. We want to see how they handle their affairs over there. Is it going to be peace? What we get instead is more terror. The university campus, 2 miles away from here, in the cafeteria, a bomb erupted. Just exploded in the cafeteria. And by the time we found the man who did that, he was on his way back to Jericho, and Jericho was Palestinian territory. So he called Mr. Arafat and said, listen, you signed an agreement. Here was the terrorist. Here was the name. Here was the photo of him. You go and arrest him. The answer was, well, I may get in trouble with my own people. I have a lot of opposition. It will take me time to take control. So peace will not happen immediately. You know what? I don't have enough weapons. I need some assistance because this militia is stronger. You know what we did? We gave them weapons. Weapons they use against us later on because Arafat was
Israel gave weapons to the PLO. Just make sure you're following this because you don't hear this on the news ever.
Yes.
So sorry to interrupt you, but we got to make sure people really hear what you're saying here. It's important.
We were still allies, and we thought that he is a genuine Palestinian that wants to live in peace as he was committed to, and maybe he's lacking resources. We want to help. What a big mistake. Now we know. Took us a while, but now we understand. So the mid-90s were times of confusion. Took us a while to understand this is not going anywhere because we kept supplying them with weapons. We kept pulling out from areas in the West Bank for peace, but we didn't get peace. We got more terror instead until enough was enough and we stopped the whole thing. In 2000, July of 2000, a new prime minister, Ehud Barak, and he said, listen, this is not working. We started the process. Maybe part of it is our fault. Let's make it more clear. Israel is willing to consider now a Palestinian autonomy that will control 100% of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. We will keep 7% around Jerusalem. We'll compensate them for the missing 7% with land by Gaza. That's the offer on the table. The two leaders meet not in the White House, but come on, help me up, not Flushing Meadow. What's the official guest house in someplace in Maryland? Forgot the name. And Mr. Barak is presenting his plan. Clinton is excited because you cannot turn this down. No prime minister of Israel in the future ever will be more generous. We thought that the maximum will be the land that was offered by the UN in 1947, the one they refused to take. We are willing to offer all of it.
Again.
Including divide Jerusalem, for goodness sake. To East Jerusalem will be Palestinian. Jews will have permission to access the Western Wall and maybe Temple Mount. The city will be divided once again for peace. Arafat did not even present a counter-offer. He left the room, came back home to Jericho or to Ramallah, the capital, and a few months later, another wave of violence, another intifada.
All right,
and this time, the second intifada, that was September 28th of 2000.
So you said all that very matter of fact. But this is a big deal. So they were offered the land, they were offered the West Bank, they were offered Gaza, they're even offered part of Jerusalem that includes the Temple Mount area.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
You understand.
The agreement is there. Go and read. All right, Camp David will speak about 2000. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak presents a plan. Okay, and this plan wasn't even a start for negotiations. Now, for us, that was a wake-up call. If our maximum doesn't meet your minimum, what are we going to talk about?
We've got a problem.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And then we understood. We understood that it was never the plan of Arafat to live side by side with Israel peacefully. It was replacing Israel. It was creating an illusion to make Israel weaker. And that was a wake-up. 2000 was a wake-up, especially in light of the second intifada. People shout, globalize the intifada. That's globalizing genocide and murder and chaos including the new mayor-elect of New York City.
Right.
He shouted, globalize the intifada.
Yeah.
Right? That's destroying you. That's chaos. That's anarchy.
Right.
That's what it means, basically.
Right.
So September of 2000, another intifada. And now the U.S. is getting involved deeper than it was. In 2002, the 24th of June, President Bush presents a plan. It will be called the Roadmap for Peace in the Middle East. Until then, the plan was the Oslo Accords, Declaration of Principles, that was off the table after Arafat turned down Ehud proposition. And Mr. Bush made a statement. It was always America's goal, he said, to see a two-state solution. I have to say, with all due respect, it was not America's goal until President Bush said it loud and clear. America's purpose was always, it's your problem, you negotiate, we will agree to every agreement that you come.
Right.
Now the US says no, the preferred one is a two-state solution. But it had a precondition. Only after the Palestinians will completely cease terror and will educate the generation to live in peace. And since we knew not going to happen, we said, fine, we'll take the land. And so did the Palestinians. But they had to deliver first. And we knew they're not capable. So President Bush's plan was on the table. Israel said, yes, we'll take it, but it was a precondition. Unless they keep their part, we're not under any obligation to keep ours. They never did. So 2002 was another possibility to try to find some peace. Wasn't working. Meanwhile, Israel started building a fence. The world calls it an apartheid fence. You need to know that we are giving the Palestinians more than 100,000 working permits to come and work in Israel every day. And these people come to provide for their families. Because if they had not, the percentage of unemployment among the Palestinians, which is more than 60%, without those people coming to work in Israel, Palestinian autonomy will be completely bankrupt and devastated. And we keep them alive. If these guys would not come to work in Israel, we pay them Israeli salary, 10 times more what it's worth in the territory. All right? So we don't really want hungry neighbors. We don't want people that will be discontent for another wave of terror. We really want to find a solution. We thought that maybe the economy is going to be a bridge. So Israel is willing to accommodate Palestinians to come and work in Israel. We take a risk. Because many of them don't come to work, they come with boxes in the lunchbox. And because it happened, we decided to build this fence. It's a fence, all right? 5% of a line 500 miles long is indeed a concrete wall. Whenever the Palestinian homes are too close to ours, we don't want them to shoot through the fence. It will be a section of a concrete wall. I live in such a place, by the way, very close to a town called Tulkarem. Since we're within the range of machine gun fire, there is a concrete wall protecting our community from potential snipers, potential whatever, people to shoot at our homes from the side of Tulkarem, which is Palestinian territory.
But they can drive around the fence and come to work.
You can go to a checkpoint. You need to present the document. You need to have the right paperwork.
Yes.
And then you can't work.
But they're allowed to.
Oh, yeah.
That's the point.
But again, I guess that our security forces are checking those that come to work. And there was a way to tell if they're engaged in terror, maybe not. So I really want to hope that most people that come over are people that really want to provide to feed the families and don't come because, let me tell you, we gave the Gazans 20,000 working pearls. And the people that came to work in Israel led the attack on October 7th because they knew the communities, they knew the people, they knew exactly where to find what. We fed their families. And that's how they rewarded us. I'm not complaining. We were simply fooled.
So 2002, that's where Bush lays out his plan. Palestinians never follow through on any of it. And so for the next 20 years, up until October 7th, talk us through what it's like. You're living here, you're working here. What are things like?
Something important happened. In 2005, another Israeli hardliner, Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, makes a decision. The world is pressuring Israel to appease the Palestinians just a little more. If you give them a little more land, they'll be content. And we said, you know what? Let's put it to a test. Israel is going to pull out from the Gaza Strip. Completely, totally, unconditionally. The problem was unilaterally as well. It wasn't through negotiations. It was a one-sided decision. We're going to leave Gaza, and that will be it. So speaking of two-state
solution, show of goodwill.
Yeah, well, that was a two-state solution. Gaza now doesn't have a single Israeli soldier or civilian in it. In the process, we destroyed our own communities that we built in Gaza. 8,000 people were relocated. 21 communities were destroyed. We cleared the synagogues because we knew they're going to destroy them. We dug out dead bones from cemeteries and reburied them in Israel because we knew how they're going to treat Jewish cemeteries. We were right by them. 2005, by September 1st, not a single Israel is in the Gaza Strip. And we hope that it will be such a good gesture of goodwill. It will bring us closer. The very opposite happened. Right. Now, I know that the whole world says, well, but you occupy Gaza and it was a blockade around Gaza. No, we are not in Gaza. And guess what? Gaza has a border with Egypt. Right. Why don't the Egyptians supply Gaza with everything that Gaza needs? Because they're not idiots. They know the pressure is on Israel. Now, from 2005, we supplied food to Gaza, we supplied electricity, we supplied pharmaceutics, everything that Gaza needs. They produce nothing. It's coming from Israel. They don't even pay for most of it. Israel is providing medical care. People from Gaza can come to seek medical attention in Israeli hospitals.
But not an Egyptian.
Oh, of course not. Not a single Gaza is permitted to go to Egypt. But the problem is...
You don't hear about that on the news, by the way, because that doesn't fit the narrative.
Of course not. The whole world knows there was a blockade around Gaza. No. Egypt has a border with Gaza. If there are such good brothers and sisters and so close Arabs in both cases, why doesn't Egypt care? The Egyptians are not providing absolutely nothing to Gaza. They will not let Gazans to go to Egypt. All right, speaking about apartheid, if you make it to Egypt, you don't have any rights. Zero rights. And by the way, the leadership in Gaza, if you want to go to Egypt and maybe go someplace else in the world, you pay $5,000 just to leave the Gaza Strip. If the Egyptians are willing to let you in, you need to bribe their authorities as well. So from
so to pay their own government $5,000,
of course,
and bribe people in Egypt to come in. All right, keep going.
And when they want to leave, they accuse us for ethnic cleansing. All right, how dare people leave Gaza? Excuse me. If you have a problem anywhere on the planet you want to leave, don't you have a problem to leave? Just go ahead. Not in Gaza. Everybody who leaves Gaza, we are accused that we created a situation that we want them to leave, and that's why we are accused of ethnic cleansing. You know what happens in Syria? About 5 million Syrians left Syria. Was anybody accusing the Syrian with ethnic cleansing? All around Africa, people leave those countries to find better life.
Right.
Anybody? Just when it comes to Israel, you're not permitted to leave Gaza, even if you want to, because if you do, Israel is committing ethnic cleansing. Well, that's the accusation. Now, to say that Israel had a blockade about Gaza, that, look at the map, okay? There was a border crossing into Egypt. Why don't the Egyptians provide Gaza with anything? Because they know the world are a bunch of idiots. The pressure will be just on Israel, and Egypt is not responsible for anything. Why not? How come the Egyptians are not responsible for what happens in Gaza? Why in the world want just Israel, the Jewish state, to provide supplies to an entity which is committed to kill us?
Right.
And they say it loud and clear. And we do.
And you do.
We do, because we do believe that not all the Gazans are evil. We try to distinguish, if possible, terrorists from innocent civilians. But who is innocent in Gaza exactly? How can you tell? If you don't wear uniform, all right? And when a terrorist dies, the first people to show on the scene are his comrades to take the weapon away, to strip him from his uniform, and he becomes a poor civilian that was killed in battle. These are the innocent people in Gaza. That's the one meaning.
So PLO is still in charge at this point, 2005. Walk us through how that came to an end, and anything else you think we should know along.
Well, now it's the U.S. once again. I hate to say that.
Oh, no, it's good.
Condoleezza Rice, in a way, twisted the arm to say that there is an opportunity now. You pulled out from Gaza. The Palestinians in Gaza are free. Most part of the West, 41% of the West Bank is in the hand of the Palestinians. How about elections for the first time ever among the Palestinians? Let's have elections. Democracy. Israel said, listen, you may, but you need to know that if they will have free elections, the PLO, the more moderate ones, the nationals, are going to lose to Hamas. A side track, if I may. Hamas was founded in 1987 by a man that was called, I forgot his name, Ahmed Yassin was the founder.
You hadn't forgotten anything in a
No,
whole week here. I was waiting. Is this the moment? Ronnie's going to forget a detail? No, ladies and gentlemen, he did not. He found it. There it is. Okay.
Ahmed Yassin is the name.
Keep going.
Hamas is Muslim Brotherhood Palestine.
Okay.
And if you want to know something about the Muslim Brotherhood, I'd encourage you to read the book that was authored by Hassan al-Banna, who was the founder, about the same time that Hitler came to power. And the platform of Hamas is almost Mein Kampf in Arabic, word to word. They are very much anti, not just Jews, anti non-Muslim. They call for a world jihad. They don't speak in behalf of nationality. They don't care about the Palestinians. They care about world jihad.
Right.
They believe that if you divide them to nations, they are getting weaker. They want to be one entity under a caliph, and they seek world jihad. That's Hamas. So Hamas was founded in 1987, and they ran for elections. So in 2006, in January, there were elections. Condoleezza Rice said, listen, it's an opportunity to show the world that Arabs can live in a democracy. It didn't work in Iraq, maybe, but they will have free elections. And to make those as free as possible, they brought over inspectors from the US, from the EU. It was as free as it could be in their country. Guess who won? The Palestinian people have voted for the first time. It wasn't the PLO that we created, it was Hamas. Hamas won 75% of the vote.
Wow.
Now, you need to read the charter of Hamas to understand what people voted for.
So when we talk about civilians getting caught up, we need to understand 75% of those civilians said that's what we want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They knew what they're voting for.
Yeah.
Some would say it was a protest vote against the corruption of PLO. Yeah, sure, that's 2%. We speak about people that are very militant in their agenda. The PLO are considered to be too moderate. They focus on the nation. We care about religion. The PLO, and that's why Israel chose them, they did not have a religious agenda. And we thought, let's try to keep that at the political level, because then you may be able to reason.
Right.
When you bring it to the level of religion, it's a dead end. You cannot negotiate religion.
Right.
Now, Hamas is all about religion. Once you understand it, you understand that every negotiation will be in vain. Now, you go and read the different paragraphs in the chart.
Yeah, tell us about
Right.
that.
Well,
And you can go read it for yourself.
yeah,
But
go
Ronnie will tell
check out Hamas Charter, November 1988. It would be a great night read. Don't read before you go to bed, because you may not be able to sleep.
Wow.
But read it, because that's what they plan, and they mean that, all right? So like they speak about, every negotiation, recognition will be just kind of an exercise in futility. The only option is a total destruction of the Jewish state. We are seeking world jihad. It's not going to work with negotiations. We are going to kill the Jews, period. Very simple, plain message right in your face. I have to give them some credit. They don't hide their intention.
At least they're honest about that.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, they tell you right in your face. Now, we sometimes pretend that we don't listen, not because we are deaf, because if you understand the meaning, you have to respond. And the response will be a violent one. And we're just sick and tired of violence once again. Speaking about the Western mindset, that's a charter. So Hamas won the election. The problem was that the PLO refused to surrender the weapons and the authority. So about a year and a half later, there was a civil war in Gaza. The PLO versus Hamas, guess who won? Big time. Hamas won. So now the Palestinians are divided into two different entities, which are at war with each other, although physically they can, because we are in the middle. PLO is in the West Bank. Hamas is in Gaza. They're not friends.
And
They're
Israel
not friends. Exactly. And they do not accept the authority of the Palestinian leader, Mahmoud Abbas. Arafat died in 1995. I'm sorry, 2004. So they do not accept the authority of the man that replaced him, Mahmoud Abbas. So even if you want to negotiate, let's say, for who represents the Palestinians? Basically nobody. The man who is more moderate lost the elections. He's not representing the people, and he's the one who wants to see us talking to. For what purpose? I mean, Israel has a certain policy which was, one can say, maybe clever, ended up as a total disaster. I can prove that to you, that we want to divide and conquer. We want to make sure that the Palestinians are divided, because if Hamas is strong enough to challenge a PLO, Israel can always say, we are willing to negotiate, but who represents the Palestinians? And we want that rift to carry on. So maybe it will sound like a hypocritical policy, but that was one idea. As long as the Palestinians are not united, we cannot negotiate. You tell us who is the leader, you tell us who can deliver, and then we may consider negotiation. And in order to weaken the PLO, Israel under Prime Minister Netanyahu was supporting Hamas. We made Hamas what it became, including money from Qatar, about $13 million every month in briefcases, cash, from Qatar to Israel to pay Palestinian Hamas officials in Gaza. And we thought that we can buy with money quiet, tranquility, maybe peace. That was the most stupid policy that we ever had.
So your political leaders set that up.
Yes.
Again, I don't know if you're catching this, but all along the way, I'm hearing, and of course I'm hearing with my American ears, and relatively speaking, between you and I, no offense, but my young ears, I'm listening to this, and I'm hearing over and over Israel trying to extend an olive branch, trying to quell the people. We'll give them jobs, we'll give them electricity, we'll give them water, we'll give them money, we'll give them finances. Now we'll just pay them to just be at peace.
Exactly.
And how was that going?
Because they wanted to be at the situation that they will have something to lose. We hope that with more prosperity in Gaza, that's why we get the working permits in Israel. They have something to lose, and something to lose, you do not initiate another attack, another wave of terror. We still did not understand 4 years ago that their motivation is not to live a decent way of life. It's not to live in peace. It's to destroy Israel, no matter what. And
So the charter is true.
now we know. Oh yeah. Listen, you should listen to the clerics. All right. First, we are going to destroy Israel. Then we're going to conquer Rome. Rome is representing Catholicism. And then he said, even the Americans are not too far away. That's the plan. They don't hide their intention. All right. It's a religious jihad. We speak about a holy war. And again, how many people in the Muslim world support that? Can't really tell, but about 1.5 billion Muslims on the planet. I think it's a fair estimate to say that 30 to 40% will follow that agenda. That's twice as much as the USA's population. We speak about hundreds of millions of people. That's the main commitment. To destroy the little Satan, that's us. The big Satan, that's you. They don't hide their intention. Listen to the messages coming from Iran. Day after day after day.
I was just getting ready to say, and in 2 hours of talking, we haven't even breathed the name Iran yet.
Well, again, the mastermind behind everything, but the real villain is Qatar. Qatar finances everything. The money is coming from Qatar. So we had this policy that we want to create a stronger Hamas to undermine the position of the PLO, to keep them divided. So Israel can always argue, we are willing to negotiate, but who represents the Palestinians? And we did not understand the motivation of Hamas. We did not understand that they are capable. And most of our attention, resources, was going to Iran and to the northern border, like Hezbollah in Lebanon. We had some proxies of Iran in Iraq, still have them, and the Houthis in Yemen. So most of the attention did not go to Hamas, but Hamas may be a little headache, a little problem, but we can easily contain that. We can deal with it without any problem. Major mistakes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such an enlightening conversation. We've been talking for a while. I think maybe this is a good place to tie off. You said you'd give me a little more time. I'll take it if I can get it tomorrow, and we can bring it up into the current events, and maybe have you speak a bit about the current state. I mean, I'll tell you, even understanding to some degree the global landscape presently. You've taught me so much about history, but I'll tell you, when we came up from the Dead Sea, from Jericho, we came up past Bethany and over the hill of the Mount of Olives. So I got out of the bus and I was greeted, Ronnie, with the Muslim prayer call over the loudspeakers as I'm trying to look at Jewish and Christian holy sites. It was very disruptive. In fact, when we came over the top of the hill and I saw the Temple Mount, I saw the Dome of the Rock, I hear the Muslim prayer calls. It was unexpected. I had a visceral response of anger and agitation that came up inside of me. You know, and you're so peaceful. I mean, I know you've seen your share of fighting, and in our last episode, if you want to talk about that, you can. You don't have to.
5 times a day.
But 5 times a day, you're surrounded by the prayer calls of religious people, and that the religion leads to the destruction of you, the destruction of your land, the destruction of your people. I can't even imagine the psychological warfare that Israelis have to deal with just simply by that taking place all the time, and not being able to even visit holy sites that you have the legal right to, but for the sake of peace, you let them hold that down. So there's so much more we could talk about. Let's tie it off right here. Can we get you back for one more episode?
Let me just finish with 2 comments.
Please, yes, absolutely.
This is a challenge for you, the viewers. You try to find one speech of an Israeli prominent leader that speaks about, we want to destroy the Palestinians, we are at war with Islam, we want to kill all the Arabs. Don't bother, you won't find it. Now you try to give me one example of an Arab leader, any of them, that speaks about Israel without calling for Israel's destruction and total elimination. You show me one rally around the world, the Jews were rallying violently, and then you show me one peaceful Muslim rally around the world, you won't find it. You give me one example that Muslims were marching for peace. Don't bother, you won't find it. Give you one example of Israel is marching for war. Don't bother, you won't find it. I think that this is a strong message. People need to understand.
It is a strong message. One of the things we say a lot and talk about is that, if Israel laid down all of its arms tomorrow, you would be destroyed. If Hamas laid down all of its arms tomorrow, the world would have peace. There is a big difference between the two. Ronnie, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate you.
We'll see that condition tomorrow.
We'll talk one more time. Yeah, I bet we can do it. You're a lot stronger than me and better looking too. So thank you so much for your time on the Under God podcast. Can't wait to get back with you hopefully one more time. We'll see you guys on our next episode. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for joining us today on the Under God podcast. If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend or family member. Your support helps us reach more people with God's Word. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and at undergodpodcast.com so that you never miss an episode. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, True Social, and TikTok for more content, behind-the-scenes moments, and faith-filled encouragement throughout the week. We want to hear from you. Leave a comment, join the conversation, and send us your questions. We will be answering them in upcoming Q&A episodes. Until next time, remember to think biblically about the things that matter most.